My name is Matti Sotalo. I'm a game designer here at Iceflake Studios and have been working on Surviving the Aftermath and its latest DLC, New Alliances.
So first of all, let's talk about what this new DLC is all about. What are you adding? More buildings, more tech trees?
Oh, everything. But the main focus has been definitely on the world map, because our game is sort of divided into two sections. There's the colony-based building part, which is sort of the main thing, and then there's the world map where your specialists go explore, gather supplies, bring them back to the colony, etc. And we wanted to expand the world map now a bit further, but of course the colony building is very much still there. There's lots of different buildings to be added, which sort of play with the new world map functions.
You know, this is a big departure from Surviving Mars, Surviving the Aftermath as a post-apocalyptic city sim management builder, and you don't see a lot of those. Like we see a lot of post-apocalyptic like games, first-person shooters, RPGs, but not city sim builds. So talk a little bit about that. Like what went into designing and adding these new things to the DLC to make sure they fit the environment in the world?
Yeah, I think like the theme itself is like you can pretty much do anything within it. So like when we started and when we started planning the whole idea, there were really none. There's now a couple of city builder or like more buildery type post-apoc games, but we really thought that there's something really unique to be explored there. Like go into more sort of like higher level on how people survive in these like horrible conditions, instead of just concentrating on an individual. And we also wanted to sort of expand a bit from like a small group idea of like 10 people or 12 people, 20 people, and go into the hundreds. So everything you could sort of think a village must do to survive when there's like satellites falling down, nuclear radiation everywhere, bandits, mutated bears, and so on.
There was a lot of environmental hazards, you know, in your game as well, like your nuclear fallout, your harsh winters, and like you just said, bears and bandits and all that good stuff. What's new in the DLC that people can expect to try to survive against?
Well, the bears are not confined to your colony anymore. So that's one of the sort of new hazards or challenges we have. So the bandits and the bears and the all sorts of hostile units are now prowling on the world map as well. So in addition to that, we also have a lot more involved the societies, which are sort of the other colonies in that area. So you will be dealing with those a lot more, and if things go sour, they will also start adding up to that challenge by attacking you in various ways.
What type of research did your team do when they were making the buildings for particular? Because the buildings are really interesting. You have like, you know, your burn pit, you know, the way they're designed and the way they looked. It's almost like you guys watched a lot or read a lot of post-apocalyptic comics or movies.
Yeah, those are definitely an inspiration, but there's also a lot of sort of trying to figure out like these are our materials we're using, these are the sort of tools and methods we're using. What can we build from those, and sort of what kind of really iconic or caricature sort of design elements can we bring? Like for example, the school is made of like a yellow school bus, and that's sort of like really iconic stuff, but that could be like easily reused in this kind of setting. And it's actually a lot of fun, like brainstorming the sort of visuals, and especially like our 3D team who comes up with different ways we can, or like they can use are sort of current materials like corrugated metal and all sort of like lost and found bits to be stuck in appropriate places.
You mentioned that you were going to be controlling money, much more survivors, up to 100. How much more difficult is that going to make for the player to manage your game?
Well, first they sort of have to let go of the idea of micromanaging every single person. You already start the game with a dozen or so people, and it grows pretty quickly to tens. And in the late game, you can have hundreds of people. So if you sort of scale up slowly enough, it shouldn't be uncontrollable. But of course we want to kind of nudge it that way sometimes. So you might have like a survivor group coming to the gate, and every one of them are like, they have radius and sickness, for example, and no gear, like nothing. And there's elders and there's children. So you always have this sort of choice to be made, like, do I want them in? It's kind of the right way to do, but I don't really have shelters or food or something. So you're kind of have to make the choice between sort of the right and the more pragmatic way. And of course, like, slowly scale up your buildings, take up, unlock like more efficient buildings so you can like handle bigger crowds and that kind of stuff. And our simulation tries to keep up with it, with each member of the colony going about their way, going to work, going to eat, sleep, that sort of stuff. So it kind of ends up in this like an anthill sort of situation where you're observing like hundreds of people and try to see the big picture of like, what do I need next? What can I skip? What do I need first before something else comes? And of course, deal with the catastrophes that come and affect the entire colony.
Was there anything in the core game or in the new DLC that your team was working on that you really wanted to include but didn't have the budget or time to implement before the release?
Everything. Lots of things. Like, there's so much really interesting stuff left on the cutting board, and like for this DLC, a lot of the stuff you're gonna see here, like stronger societies and how player interacts with them, completes their requests, and more in-depth reputation system to go along with it, is definitely something that we have to just skip. We didn't have the time to put it all in, and I think you'll be seeing more of that in the future DLCs as well. Like there's so many different topics we want to expand on, from the exploration to combat, specialists, resource chains, you name it.
How important was it to keep a semi-grounded approach to Aftermath? Because I mean, there are games out there that go like full-on almost science fiction fantasy with giant mutants and giant insects, and you do have bears and a little bit giant insects, but you're pretty much grounded for the most part. Like, what made you decide to go that other route instead of going complete almost post-apocalyptic fantasy?
Yeah, I think partly to stand out a bit, like being that grounded game, but also it's sort of it's an interesting challenge to like make it really interesting and enticing without throwing everything on it. Like, zombies have been like asked from us multiple times over the entire development, and it's sort of it's really enticing to do. We haven't done it yet, but like in the sea of zombie games, it's kind of nice to be the one that doesn't have them.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a really obvious and easy decision to make, just to put it in. But like you said, you wanted to be different, and that's kind of important. You want to stick out, especially in city sim builders. You're already sticking out because you're post-apocalyptic, and you stick out even more because you're not following the tropes of zombies and mutants and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
For you and your team, what are some of the core principles when making, like, what makes a good city simulator? Like, what makes a good city build simulator? Like, what are some of the core pillars your team follows when designing Aftermath and its DLC?
For me, especially like action and reaction, like the things you do have an effect, and stuff that you react to sort of alter something, that it's not like a big RNG generator that just happens and you have to deal with it, but that you can like mold the world to your liking, and sort of like have these cool little things where different sort of intersecting systems create something cool. I can't speak for the entire team, but that's at least something I'm really into, like emergent gameplay, that sort of stuff. And it was one of the reasons we wanted to sort of encourage that in the world map expansion as well.
For people who are brand new to city sim builders, and maybe they really just like the aesthetic post-apocalyptic theme of your game, like how do you get new players into a surviving game to begin with? Like, what are some of the challenges when making sure you're explaining all the tools and the resources and the systems to someone who's maybe had very minimal experience with city sim and management builders?
Yeah, it's intimidating prospect for sure. Like just putting survival into the word soup already like scares some people away. They don't want to deal with survival games. They feel they're too hard or something, or like they don't offer the challenge they themselves prefer. And the sort of the post-apoc thing is another one. But we've added quite a few different ways to play the game. So you have the sort of basic experience, but that already has quite a few customization options on how difficult do you want it to be. You don't have to go all like whole hog into the deep end, and you can play that much more on a like casual and calm pace. But then there's scenarios which are sort of shorter experiences, and then there's the custom game where you can just go nuts, like tweak all sorts of different settings, create horribly imbalanced but possibly really fun situations. So that's definitely one thing. Of course, onboarding tutorials is another. That's always like a big, huge thing that, and it's sort of like work that never ends. So those are at least some of them. And I think are sort of I might be biased here, or I'm definitely biased here, but I don't think our game is overly threatening from the visuals, like the key art or the screenshots. There's of course the catastrophes and whatnots, but I hope people can see sort of like an intriguing city builder where you can tweak stuff and build cool things and then watch the colony grow.
Your game is also on consoles, and we're seeing more and more games that you would never imagine have a controller UI. I don't know if you guys ported in-house or if you guys worked on the UI, but like, can you talk about can you talk about some of the challenges on how it was getting a controller to work with your game?
It's been there from the start, and it's been done in-house. So I think that has helped a ton. It's not an afterthought that was added 2 years later, but it's been something we've been carrying through the project at all times, and it has been a challenge at times, because like city builders and colony builders, like by nature are really like PC centric, and it's super easy to just point things with a mouse and show like tool tips or like create really complex UIs like that. So there's a lot of thinking, and every time we add a new UI, we have to keep in mind there's a game bad support needed for this. So it sort of guides us every time we start anything new. So I think that helps a lot. And as a bonus, it works really well on Steam Deck.
Did you guys, were you able to get your hands on that early to see what it looked like, or did you have to wait like everyone else before you got one?
We've seen through Paradox. I don't know if we have a unit here at the studio though.
It's just interesting because, you know, it's a really cool piece of hardware, but it's either people are really loving it or really hating it. But it is good. It is really important to have games that run well, specifically on the Steam Deck, like that feel good on the Steam Deck. And yours has controller support, which is a big deal. Again, it separates itself from other city builders. There have been city builders that make UI, but it's usually, like you said, an afterthought. It's after the fact, after the PC release, maybe an anniversary edition or a patch 6 months later, but like they don't maybe. So you guys develop the controller simultaneously is what it sounds like during the rest of development. Yeah,
it has been a pain at times, but I think it's been worth it. Like definitely compared to creating a PC UI first and then adding a console UI later, it's often something that's handed over to a third party to do. But I think by doing it simultaneously while it's been more work has come through for us.
That's man. And so what's next for the Surviving series for Aftermath? More DLC? Are you guys going to take it to another aesthetic? Are you guys going to do, I don't know, old-timey 600 BC sim? Like what's on the plate for you guys that you can talk about? What's coming from your studio?
What I can talk about is not a lot. Other than we are continuing with the DLCs. This is the first one in the season pass, and we'll be doing the rest over the next months and years, or year or so. I don't know what the final date for the final DLC is yet for this, but that's definitely on our plate next. Finishing this one, planning and completing the next one, and then maybe looking into the survival genre more. Like nothing is concrete yet, but of course the sort of the theme lends itself really well for lots of things. Going more like a high flying stuff, or finding a really interesting like historic period that hasn't been tackled yet, or something just completely different.
Now, did you guys do? You mentioned you did the UI in house. You also did some of the ports. Did you guys do the Nintendo Switch port in house as well?
Yep.
What was that like? Talk about that process, because that had to be very difficult.
Yes. Like I wasn't involved personally. It was it was a heroic effort from our programmers for the most part, and like the Switch UI is also a bit different, so you can't just like port it from other console versions. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of compromises you have to do on the Switch. But it's sort of cool at the same time to see your game that you've been developing on a big like PC screen for such a long time, to see it crammed into like this small tiny device.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time today. Surviving the Aftermath is out now on every platform: PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch. When does the DLC come out?
Really soon. I think I should have the final release date somewhere here, but it's already on the store pages, I think. I just got the email like moments ago. So
just stay tuned on the Steam page for more information, basically.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything that might be wrong.
And in the meantime, where can people go to support your game and find out more information about it? Your Discord, website?
Yeah, we're Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter accounts, and of course the Paradox forums that are really extensive, where we spend as much time as we possibly can. Steam forums as well. There's Reddit, Discord, all sorts of stuff. But if you want to just check all the latest, like when we're streaming or the releases, I think Facebook, Twitter, and then Instagram are your best bets.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time today. Check out Surviving the Aftermath, available now across everything with the DLC and Season Pass. More to come in the future. And speaking of more to come, we have more content happening right now here at Shacknews E6. Don't go anywhere.